Hi, Brianna Bundy here again. I've calmed down a little bit since my video yesterday, but I just wanted to get you guys all up to speed, especially after what happened yesterday. So, to go back, these abuses have been taking place for pretty much since we got to Prump. So I wanted to go over a few of them with you guys so that you knew what was going on inside this facility that's been causing these frustrations. So first off, we have the librarian in the facility, Mrs. Taylor. She is not a nice woman. She has been harassing these guys since they first got to the facility. She's treated them very rudely, very disrespectfully, made a lot of racial slurs against them because she's been watching the fake news. She has seen ads that Ruben Kihun put out, or Kiwin, whatever the heck his name is. Good job in Nevada. Way to vote him in. But he placed ads on all of our TV stations and even sent them all in the mail saying that Cliven Bundy was a racist. And so that escalated that situation. About the time of the election, she saw the ads and she started treating the men very poorly every time they came into the library to do their discovery research. So it escalated to the point where she was writing them up every single day for any reason. She was writing them up for talking too loud. She was writing them up for talking to one another, which has always been allowed. She was writing them up for not bringing their name badges, even though she knows what their name is and who they are and what pod they came from, which all these things had never been an issue in the past. And then she wrote my husband up because he said she was being too nice to her. So she has some serious issues with my family in particular. She thinks we're racist, and she's made that very vocal. So it got to the point where the men would no longer, they don't even want to go to the law library anymore. They're like, we'll just stay in our pods and do it. So her constant harassment. Then we have Mrs. Downing. Let me tell you about Mrs. Downing. Mrs. Downing is the commissary lady. She has no business being in the pods at all. So 3 days ago, what's today? Saturday, Thursday? Yeah, it was like Tuesday or Wednesday. She came into my husband's pod and said, "Are you Mel Bundy?" And he said, "Yeah." And she said, "Is this your paper?" And he says, "Well, it has my name on it, so it must be." And she's like, "Well, this was in my box." And he's like, "Well, why was it in your box? That's a grievance form." He had filled out a grievance because the phones have not been working, and so he hasn't been allowed to talk to his family because every time you start the phone conversation, it hangs up on you or it cuts out. So we're spending all this money on these phone calls, and we're not being able to hear our conversations. We get frustrated and end up hanging up. So he had filed a grievance asking for a competent IT guy to come into the pod and to fix his phone because they kept saying they were fixed, but they weren't fixed. So she continued to degrade him, said that she had taken a sticky note and placed it on his paper and told him how ignorant he was, and she had taken the liberty to correct his spelling. And he's like, "Well, thank you, I appreciate that, but why didn't you just put my grievance in the right box if it ended up in the wrong box?" So, and then he walked away. Well, she proceeded to follow him clear down the hallway, harassing him and degrading him and belittling him all the way down the hallway and all the way back. And on the way back, she started making comments about, "Well, your dad doesn't pay his grazing fees." And Mel's like, "Hey, don't worry about it. We're going to be out of here really soon, and you're never going to see me again." So then she got angry. She went into the commissary room and then continued her racial slurs to the other inmates. The other inmates came and told Mel about the things that she was saying and said she even acknowledged the fact that she had no right to say these things and get involved in your case, but she continued anyways. So Mel filed grievances against her, and Nothing. We hear nothing. Cliven slipped and fell a couple of months ago, hurt his hip really bad. He was bruised from, the top of his hip all the way down to his knee. He was black and blue. It took them weeks to finally get him medical treatment, and then they did nothing for him. They didn't get an x-ray, didn't do anything to make sure that his hip wasn't broken or fractured or anything. Mind you, he was in a lot of pain this entire time. My husband would call daily, worried about his dad, thinking that he was going to die or have serious complications from whatever was going on. He thought he had maybe hurt a blood vessel or something and was bleeding because of how bad the bruising was. No help there. Then this inmate that died a few weeks ago in the pod, and Jerry DeLoomis had to do CPR on him, calling for the guard to help him with CPR. The guards in this facility are not trained at all. There is no training at all for these guards. They are glorified babysitters, is what one of the guards told my husband. So you have these guards. If I am in a place where people cannot, okay, so for example, my mom, she works at a school. She is in the office with children all day long. She has to have CPR certification. She has to have seizure training in case somebody has a seizure. She has to go through extensive training to make sure that she's equipped for any situation, any medical situation that comes her way. Why are these guards who are in charge of all these men that can't get help for themselves, why are they not being trained? Why are they not being able to give CPR to a dying man? They don't even have mouth guards for these guys. Jerry had requested a mouth guard so that he could give this man breaths. They didn't even have one. So Jerry does mouth-to-mouth CPR on a man that he has no idea his medical history, and testing needs to be done right. Do you want to know when Jerry finally got tested to make sure he didn't have any diseases from trying to save this man's life? Like 2 days ago. If this man had a disease, Jerry's got the disease. That is incredibly alarming. So, I mean, there's those instances. Joe O had been sick for weeks, never received medical. Then we have Greg Burleson, who is epileptic. He has seizures constantly. He is completely blind. He can't even walk without the aid of a cane and another person, typically 2 guards helping him around. He pled for his life in court, asking for release because he feared that he would die in jail if they did not allow him to go home and get medical attention. The judge denied him. So there Greg Burleson sits in solitary confinement in Pahrump, Nevada, with nobody to come to his aid. This is atrocious. This is not okay. That people, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sure some of these people have committed crimes. I'm sure they have. I'm sure they're probably not very good people. I don't care. Every person, if you're going to take them and you're going to lock them up in a cell where they can't care for themselves and they can't get the help that they need, if they can't see a doctor, if they can't feed themselves, if they can't keep themselves warm, it's your responsibility. If you're going to take on the responsibility to house these people and to, keep them alive, then maybe you should be trained and properly equipped to do these things. You don't just, animals have more advocates than these people inside these facilities. It's not okay. They deserve some respect, some dignity, and they deserve to be treated like human beings. It is completely inhumane and completely unjust. Oh, are you joking? Sorry, my baby came and joined me. So anyways, all these things just continue to happen, and this is the reason why. So one of the guards inside the facility came and talked to Mel, and he shed a little light on the situation. He said, Mel, these facilities are not typical facilities. The CCAs are made for one reason, and that is to break you down. They keep the air at about 60 degrees so that these men freeze. They are given a blanket that's about the consistency of a burlap sack. It has holes in it so they can't stay warm. They don't give them enough food to sustain their body temperature, let alone life. So they've lost, some of them as much as 70 or 80 pounds since they've been in there. They're withering away. They're starved. They're cold. They're sick. Everybody has a snot nose every single day. They're coughing, and there's no medical attention. It's not okay. But the reason why they do that is because all of these inmates that are in there have not been convicted yet. Some of them have, and they're just waiting to get transported to another facility. But these CCAs are set up to wear these guys down so that they think that this is prison. And if they don't take a plea deal, this will be the rest of their lives. And they scare the hell out of them. That's why our federal government has a 97% conviction rate through plea deals. Through plea deals. 97% of people take a plea deal in this country. Do you think 97% of them are probably guilty? Because I highly doubt that. My husband says there's a man that he spoke to yesterday who has been in there for 8 months and hasn't even had a single hearing. He hasn't taken a plea deal because he's not guilty of what they're accusing him of being guilty of. So he sits in there for 8 months. There's a man in there that's been in there for 6 years without his day in court, yet they keep him detained. This is completely unjust. So yesterday, everything went down, so I was furious because I'm tired of being treated like garbage, and I'm tired of being treated like less than an animal on some infomercial on TV. And all of you guys, bless your hearts, started calling and emailing the facility. So now the warden is in there backpedaling really quick, claiming that she had no idea about all these atrocities that have been taking place over the last year. Says that she had no idea of any of it. Didn't even know that about yesterday and what had happened. Said nobody informed her. And Mel told her that it was because everybody's just trying to cover their butts. And she had nothing to say to that. So then Mel proceeded to tell her that he'd already spoken to his attorney and they would be filing a class action suit against the facility for these wrongdoings and for the evil actions of these guards and the abuses that they're inflicting on these men. She started backpedaling really quick. Well, I'm really sorry about what your wife went through. I'll give you my personal cell phone number and you need to have your wife call me and we'll work this out. We'll sort this whole thing out. Oh, of course she will, because she doesn't want to be held accountable, America. Why would she want to be held accountable? Well, I think it's time that we start a serious campaign to take to the president about taking these CCAs down. Prison for profit is an absolute crime. Thank you, Lindsay. It is a complete crime. It is not okay. We have more people locked away in prisons in this country than all other countries combined. There's something wrong with that. We have a 97% conviction rate, and the other 3%, so probably dang close to 100% of people that enter a federal court are convicted, whether by plea deal or because they have unlimited resources to take you down. It is so incredibly wrong. It's time to start advocating for these men and women locked away. I know everybody has the preconceived notion that, oh, they're in jail, they're guilty. I don't believe that. I believe that there are a lot of really good people inside that facility, people that have helped my family. There is a man inside that facility that every single day would make Cliven a burrito and bring that burrito to Cliven and make sure that he was okay. Letting him know that he had his back, that he would be protected and safe as long as he was in that facility. That is very noble. There was a man when Mel's commissary order was restricted 2 weeks straight that brought Mel food every single day, and this man didn't speak very good English, and so he said, and Mel said, well, I can't take your food without something in return, and he said, teach me how to read. So Mel started reading the Bible with him and teaching him how to read with the Bible. This man's testimony is enormous. He's the most amazing man that Mel says he's ever met. Has he made mistakes? Absolutely. We all make mistakes. Some of us don't have a wonderful family that brought us up and loved us and coddled us and cared for us and taught us right from wrong. Some people come from very terrible circumstances and they don't know any better. It doesn't mean that they're horrible people, and it doesn't mean that they don't deserve to be treated with kindness and love. It's time that we start advocating for these people. They deserve to be treated with respect and dignity. So join with me, America. Let's get our letters to the DOJ and ask them to investigate prisons for profit and have them removed from this country. It is no longer okay to treat American citizens with less dignity than an animal. Thank you for your time, and thank you for bearing with me through all my rants. I am pretty fired up this last couple of days, but hey, keep working. You guys are doing amazing. I appreciate everything. Oh, hey, let me tell you about Joe Robinson too really quick. You guys all know Joe, the wonderful veteran that has been wrongfully convicted in Colorado. Joe hasn't had a family visit since, Lindsay may have to help me out here, I think since August. They restricted his phone calls to his family for like 120 days. He hasn't even been able to talk to a single soul that he knows. He has PTSD. He has the help of a service dog that, I mean, how do you think Joe is handling this? This is a man that served our country, that was willing to give his life for this country, for our freedoms, and he's sitting locked away in prison. He's been denied visits from day one since he left the first jail. He hasn't even had a visit with his family. I'm over here complaining that we haven't got to see my husband in 2.5 months. What about Joe? We need some people advocating for Joe. This man didn't even build, they were like natural ponds on his land that water filled up in, and they claim he was stockpiling water, yet the U.S. Forest Service are using them to fight fires for the community, and he's been made a criminal because of it. It's not okay. Joe needs to be home. Joe needs to be with his family. Joe needs to be able to, I mean, he got stuck with an incompetent public defender that didn't care about him from Adam, and didn't fight for him at all. Nobody came to fight for Joe. He was prosecuted quickly and in silent and swept under the rug. We've got to start fighting for Joe. We need to get Joe home. We need to get Dwight and Stephen Hammond home. We need to get the Bundys home. We need to get Eric Parker, Steve Drexler, or Eric Parker, Stephen Stewart, Scott Drexler, Todd Engel, Rick Loveland, and Greg Burleson, who go to trial on Monday, home. We need to be storming that court. I want to see 1,000 people standing outside 333 Las Vegas Avenue every single day until that trial is over, waving their flags, showing their support, telling them that these men's lives matter. They sacrificed everything to come to the aid of people in danger. They sacrificed everything, and they've been locked away for a year unlawfully, unconstitutionally, and they've been abused. We've got to show our support. We probably should this is funny. I don't know if this is legal. I'll have to check into the building codes. So let me check that out first. But we should probably get probably 20 or 30 horses and ride those dang horses right down Las Vegas Avenue, waving our flags and letting the media and the public and everyone know that we stand with these patriots. It's time to bring them home. I want prayers morning, noon, and night. Pray for the prosecution to be silenced. Pray for the judge to not sustain 80 million objections every single day. Pray for the defense attorneys to speak fluently and clearly. The jury to have their hearts softened and to know the truth, because they have to feel the truth, because they're not going to hear it. They have blocked our entire case. So pray for the jury that they will see the deceit that is taking place in these courtrooms, and that they will acquit these men, that they will bring these men home to their families and to this country. They are needed. I could ramble on forever, but I probably better cut this off. But anyways, get praying. The man upstairs is a heck of a lot more powerful than any mighty prosecutor in this country. Stay strong, America. Let's get advocating for these, not just our patriots, but for all inmates, for all humanity. It starts now. God bless you all, and I'll try to slow my ramblings down a little bit next time, maybe be a little bit more organized. Thanks. Have a good one.